Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm at Caesar Creek State Park. It's probably one of the largest natural areas in this part of Ohio. At least this is the largest I've been to. I think it's well over 3,000 acres of green space. The lake, I believe, is about 1,700 acres, which is pretty large. I am here currently at the Gorge Trail, and I'm hiking it. Just started actually, but it's about a mile, so not too long. But some of the other trails on Caesar Creek are much more larger. Like the whole entire Perimeter Trail is, it's almost total of about 12 miles. So pretty large. We're just gonna get started for the day. It's gonna probably be a very hike-heavy day, just because it's a gorgeous day nonetheless. It's a little hot and humid. It's bright blue skies. It's real sunny right now, so it's kind of unflattering shadows and reflections. But depending on how the day goes, once I'm done with this Gorge Trail, which I'm going to show you a little bit of my walk here, I'm going to check out maybe some of the other trails along the state park. So we're just going to get started here. The only problem with photographing kind of this time of year is the June and July, kind of the real summer months. It's just all the foliage kind of looks really samey, and it's too much green most of the time, unless if you can make it work. It's kind of tricky also when post-processing, because you don't want to saturate all those greens a little too much, because then it just gets that really fake and otherworldly look, unless if you're going for that, of course. And I've only been hiking a little more than probably about 15-20 minutes now. Haven't gotten too far yet on this mile loop. And I'm not seeing too many subjects, at least, but I'm still looking around. We'll see what we find. So like I said, not too many subjects right now. At least nothing's jumping out at me. I'm probably passing by so many different kinds, big and small, especially small, but I'm mainly just using this daylight hours to scout out locations, compositions, and I'm hoping with this bright sunny day that'll make for a nice gorgeous sunset at the end, but I'm holding my breath on that, but we'll see, and that might be the reward of today, really. So I'm actually in not so much the state park portion of Caesar Creek. I'm actually in the nature preserve, which is owned and operated kind of a little bit separately from the state park by Ohio Natural Preserves and Areas, and that's actually about 484 acres. It was actually dedicated January 1975, so they could protect, the gorge. All right, I found kind of my first subjects that I'm interested in. I've been reading a lot about Odonata. That's the family classification for dragonflies and damselflies, and I found this nice bright sunny patch because I really like that sunny warm light just right here in the woodland, and I couldn't pass it up, so I got out my macro lens, my 75-300 zoom lens. I'm using a lens hood to block out any kind of sunlight and lens flare that may pop up, and I'm using an external flash just to fill in any shadow details, because it can be really tricky with the midday sun and all these different leaves that kind of, the taller trees and all the other leaves shadow on top of the lower stuff. If they're sitting on that, then it can be kind of tricky for metering and lighting wise. And then not only that, but I'm also using what they call a softbox. So it's just a little kind of like a neoprene cover that you put over your flash, and it helps diffuse the light so it's not too harsh. Because I definitely have enough sufficient lighting from above, natural light at least, but I just want to use this just to soften, diffuse the light, and fill in the shadow details. Now for my settings, I'm pretty consistent here. I've been using a 250th of a second. I find that to be decent enough to handhold if I'm very steady and careful as I'm zooming in and out. And then f8 and then ISO 800 to 1000. And these make some really bright exposures, but it helps later on when I'm post-processing, because I can still tone it down to underexpose it. See, I got quite a few images here of a macro of damselflies and dragonflies, so I hope you enjoyed the results here. This is it. This is the fossil collecting area. It's like these flat lowlands surrounded by the gorge, and pun intended, it's gorgeous. Wow. Stunning. Well, I'm going to, I guess, hike along it and see how beautiful it is down there. So walking just kind of from end to end at this, very desolate and not so much dry because there's some wet kind of streams flowing here and there on the ends, but walking through this rock quarry, just really got me kind of thinking about landscapes now. So I stepped right back out, and then now I'm up on the top ridge here where there's all these bluebird nest boxes and for other like happy nesting birds. But what I'm trying to do is a panoramic of just showing off mainly the rock, the limestone gorge cliff face on the other side, all the while showing the tree line that's just beyond that. And then I will show a little bit of the sky just to keep that kind of perspective detail in. But for the most part, I'm tilted a little bit downward with my lens and camera here because I want to show more of the foreground interest and show more of the dry kind of, almost like arid climate looking rock quarry at the bottom. And so I used a little hyperfocal table chart on my PhotoPills app here on my phone, and I'm shooting at 75 millimeters focal length with aperture of f14, and so it says I need 68 feet and 5 inches without obviously taking out a tape measure and measuring out quite literally that far, 68 feet. I mean, I guess I could do that, but most people I know wouldn't do that. So what we're going to do is just going to kind of like eyeball it and guesstimate it. And so I set up on my touch LCD screen here a way to just kind of pick it so it's not too close in the foreground, the focus, but it's just like just beyond that. It's basically in between that and the middle, would be like the middle point in the image here. For my other settings, I'm just at 160th a second in ISO 500, and I got a polarizer on there, lens hood, because I am shooting right next to the sun and it's directly overhead at this time of the day. And so we're just going to take a handful of images here, just sliding the ball head, just adjusting it, micro adjustments to make a panoramic, and I think it'll look quite interesting. Lots of green foliage, but there's definitely all these different streaks of just the rock, and you can kind of see it from this kind of higher elevation in this perspective, which I think will look really nice. But I think that's pretty much it. So I'm going to shoot it, and you'll get to see it, and hopefully it turns out well. One last very important detail when you're shooting panoramics, you want to make sure your tripod is level. And down there in the kind of the surface, the ground floor of the quarry, I found it really tricky with just all the different uneven layering, and just the surface area had a lot of rocks and it was really kind of bumpy. So certain surfaces and terrains can be very tricky, like sand. That can be very difficult to level your tripod on. But since I'm up here on just this kind of grass, it's not too bad. I mean, right in front of me is kind of like a little bit of a ramp where it kind of tilts off, and then you can kind of just slides right down to the quarry. And I'm also shooting I'm experimenting with doing a vertical panorama, but I might shoot some horizontal panos and see how those work as well. Yep, just a lot of experimentation, and just trying out different camera techniques and seeing how it all looks when you edit on the computer. Alright, so I made my way to the State Nature Preserve portion of Caesar Creek here, and I found this weird little, probably not natural, it's probably artificial, whatever this was, this like rocky outcrop, and there's all the rocks and just little, narrow stone slabs have moss on them. So I'm trying something a little different here. I got my 50mm prime lens on, just because I found that focal length to be just right, and get a nice sharp image throughout, because this is more of like a textural shot. No filters, and for my settings I'm at 2 seconds, f13, and ISO 640. The State Nature Preserve is super dense. The trails are very narrow. I'm talking like claustrophobic narrow, and they're super muddy, super slick, keep slipping and sliding. I also just ran out of water in my hydration pack. Still have plenty of food though. But yeah, there's quite a lot of down trees as well. As far as I can tell, I'm the only one out here. And because they're super narrow and super just dense and lush with all the green foliage, it's hard to tell if I'm even going the right way. But luckily, in order to not get lost, here's a little, I guess, survival pro tip. Even though I'm not really in a survival danger situation, at least yet, is you follow a water source, and the way it flows will tell you which way to go. So you can probably hear it now as I get closer to it. Yeah, I'm getting there. Oh, that's beautiful. Now it's starting to widen up a little bit. It's always nice. Here it is. Jeez, this trail is intense. Certainly one of the most intense ones I've been on, so. Check this out. It's so nice to finally just get out in the clearing from that little, it was short, but it was quite disastrous, and like I said, claustrophobic, sweaty, really just hard to find the trail and stick with it. But finding this, this water source right here, I think it's Little Miami, I believe. I'll have to check my map. Probably is. It's just, it's just kind of a nice little reward at the end, because it looks like, unfortunately, I need to backtrack and turn around and go back where I came from. But so yeah, this is been the State Nature Preserve. It's a pretty nice spot. It's just hard to hike, at least this time of year when everything's all just dense with foliage. I think this little view at the end, I'm guessing this is the end, by the way. Let me see if there's any other trails, but do I even want to hike any more of this after doing all that? I don't know. And then from here, I'll probably go to the actual Caesar Creek State Park, and I'll just get to walk along the beach side, probably set up a landscape composition for the sunset, and that should be great. So this is a little bit of an afterthought, as I was saying about how I wanted to go, turn around and go back to the trailhead. I noticed up on this little hill right next to the water over here, I got these trees, and so I've really been kind of feeling this 50mm prime lens using like a fixed focal length to photograph nature. I'm finding a little bit of like a challenge, really, a creative challenge at least, and it's been fairly rewarding so far. I got these 3 trees that are lined up, and I find that, like, once again, the focal length really kind of just helps pull in all the details. And since I'm kind of slanted on this hill right here, I've had to set up my tripod legs in a sort of a way to really just kind of counterbalance it, and so that way the entire camera and tripod doesn't flip over. But and also to ensure there's no camera shake when I press the shutter button, I'm using a 2-second timer. Usually I use a cable release. That's more of my preferred method, a wired cable release. Part of it's I'm just too lazy to get it out of my bag right now. But I just find the self-timer to be working a lot better in this case anyways. At 50 mil, it's not quite a telephoto focal length. Anything beyond that would be considered that, and anything below 50 is generally, or below 35, excuse me, would be considered wide angle focal length. But I find this one really just helps pull in the details. I'm using aperture f14, which helps just keep most of the, especially the foreground tree trunk, which I put my focus point on, and then all the rest of the details in the background, the other 2 tree trunks, keep those in focus as well, which I find really helpful. And then just to ensure I don't overblow the highlights, I bracketed, so I got 2 exposures here. I think one I had at 1/4 of a second, and one was at 1/8 of a second, and that just helps because way in the background the sun is still shining through, and it's kind of overexposing the details back there on just the green foliage and all the leaves. So I'm finding bracketing twice has been very helpful. Then ISO 800, just because it is a little bit darker in here and it's more shaded in this woodland. But I'm liking the details, and I'm hoping the leading lines is kind of like what prospective viewers might notice about this image. That's kind of what I was going for with it. I'm never going to complain about experimenting, because that's kind of what I'm all about. Yeah, pretty much it. I'm going to make my way back to the trailhead, and we'll probably go to the state park portion and hike that a little bit, and hopefully we'll get to view a gorgeous sunset. So it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes left of daylight, so let's see what we can get into. Alright, I'm here at the Flat Rocks Ridge Trail. I drove on over, had a quick little snack break, just kind of recollect myself. I was getting pretty exhausted. This is what I'm dealing with, and it's not really looking too good, because it seems like most days lately it's bright blue skies midday, and then it just gets down to this really cloudy, hazy thing just out west where the sun sets, and I really don't like it. I don't know, it's not looking too promising right now, but I guess things could change. Expect anything at this point. So I am a dirty liar. Okay. So maybe I just have attention deficit disorder. I don't know, but I am here back at the rock quarry, or at least I'm hiking. I'm partially hiking along the yellow perimeter trail, and I'm actually on my way to go shoot a water long exposure, because that's totally a sunset. My oh my. So I figured, because it's nice and cloudy with the diffused lighting, it was a place and shot I already kind of had envisioned that I wanted to check out anyways while I'm here. So I figured, why not? But this is it's a very wide, it's called Horseshoe Falls. It's a pretty popular spot in Cedar Creek State Park, and it's a very long, it has a low drop, but it's a very long and kind of, I guess, consistent waterfall along the stream here that flows into the lake. So I'm going to check it out, probably shoot some long exposure of that. Then if I have time, might shoot the sunset. I don't know. I'll give you a look and let you decide, I guess. But alright, I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I shot it. Horseshoe Falls, everyone. So you'll see the images after I'm done talking about it for here a second. Sorry, I had it brought two, because there's a big steep incline I had to climb down, climb back up just to get to the Horseshoe Falls. Jeez. As I fall over, I think it was F13 ISO 800. And then I varied my shutter speed 3 stops, overexposed and underexposed and even, to bracket it. And I did about 4 sets of those. I used an ND4 filter, neutral density 4 stop filter, and a 24mm wide angle, and it looks great. And each of those out of those 4 sets of images, I just moved my camera perspective forward, backward, up, down, tilting it at least. So it's getting pretty close to dark here. I'm going to head back to the car. Maybe we'll see a sunset, so I don't know. It's probably too late for me to set up anything halfway decent, but I'm glad I got at least that waterfall. I just barely missed it. This close. I was the sunset. I was who am I kidding? I was in the wrong spot by and large, because pretty much right where the sun is setting out there, it's like there's a dam over it. Just check it out. Look at these views. It's just gorgeous. So I'm glad I got Horseshoe Falls though, at least. But I'm a few more yards from my car, looks like. Yeah. And yeah, I was just simply in the wrong spot. But this is gorgeous though to see it. Regardless, you know, without taking a real picture of it, just seeing it. I love how the waters, love how the colors reflect over the water on the lake. And it just looks, it's gorgeous. But this might be the end of today for the most part. I think we're almost done. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for today. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. This has been Cedar Creek State Park. And make sure to get on out here, guys. Thank you.